Welcome to a deep dive into Christopher Nolan's Memento. This is a film that, well, it masterfully unravels the very fabric of identity and reality. It's really more than just a movie, isn't it? It's like this intellectual puzzle that just stays with you long after the credits roll. Okay, let's try and unpack this a bit. Today, we're thinking about 5 really profound concepts Memento pushes right to the forefront. Things like the nature of fragmented time, that elusive search for truth, the power of manipulation, and that's both external and internal, which is interesting then how identity is sort of a constructed narrative. And finally, the chilling fragility of justice. We'll kind of see how the film forces us to confront these ideas pretty head on.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, I think, is how Memento doesn't just, tell you a story.
Yeah.
It actively pulls you into this really profound debate about memory, about purpose, and what it actually means to be you when your past is constantly shifting under your feet like quicksand.
That's a really powerful way to put it, yeah. And it makes me think, if memory is that fragile, how does the film tackle that first big challenge for Leonard? I mean, navigating fragmented time. Nolan just throws us right in, doesn't he, into this universe where time doesn't flow neatly forward, it shatters, it unfolds like looking through a broken kaleidoscope. And Leonard Shelby, our protagonist, he's got anterograde amnesia. Can't make new memories. Is that just a clever plot device, you think? Or does experiencing time that way fundamentally change how we see him? And maybe even ourselves?
Oh, that's exactly the question, isn't it? By making time so subjective and telling the story backwards, Nolan isn't just trying to disorient us for effect. He's subtly suggesting that our sense of self relies way more on chronology than we maybe admit. Without that continuous thread of memory, our identity doesn't just get confused, it actually gets rebuilt. Like moment by moment. It forces you to realize memory isn't just about recall. It's an active, almost you could say, a violent architect of who we are.
Right, a violent architect. Mm-hmm. And that profound disorientation, that fragmentation, it naturally pushes us right into Leonard's desperate search for truth, which often seems so elusive. He's chasing his wife's supposed killer, right? Armed only with these Polaroids and tattoos. They seem objective, like solid proof. But the film keeps showing us they're really just interpretations. Highly subjective, easily distorted. Is the film basically saying truth itself becomes an invention when memory is broken?
It absolutely pushes that idea, yeah. Memento suggests Leonard might be, a hostage to his own story. He needs to invent a culprit, maybe, just to give his life some meaning. His so-called facts aren't absolute at all. They're props. Props in a story he desperately needs to believe. And the central paradox is that the very things meant to ground him, the notes, the photos, they're precisely what allow him to drift further from, whatever reality is.
Which brings us to that really unsettling point. The power of manipulation. Both from the outside and, maybe more disturbingly, from the inside. We see how easy it is for people like Natalie, like Teddy, to twist Leonard's reality because of his condition. But what's the film's real punch here? Is it that Leonard also manipulates himself?
That's exactly where the film's genius lies, I think. Because while we feel for him, we empathize with his condition, Nolan doesn't completely let us off the hook. He shows Leonard making very conscious choices, maybe self-deceptive choices, but still choices, within his fragmented world. He crafts this whole system of clues, these tattoos and notes, to basically reaffirm a story where he still has purpose. It shows us memory isn't just passive recall, it's an act of will. It's constantly being rewritten based on what we need to believe about ourselves to keep going.
That's chilling. Yeah, it really is. Because it underpins this whole idea of identity as something we construct, like a narrative. Without memories, Leonard is essentially an empty shell. So his tattoos, photos, notes, they create this kind of artificial autobiography, a substitute for the continuity most of us just take for granted. Identity becomes this project, this constant invention. But doesn't Memento subtly suggest that maybe we all do this to some extent? We tell ourselves stories to create coherence, even if they don't always perfectly match objective truth.
Precisely. Leonard's just doing it much more explicitly, more desperately. He's a stark metaphor, really, for how we construct our own identities every single day. The film really asks how much of who you believe you are right now is some fixed thing and how much is just a constantly updated narrative, a story you tell yourself and others just to maintain that sense of self.
And leading from that, finally, we land on the deeply unsettling fragility of justice in the film. Leonard's pursuit of his wife's killer feels like this fixed quest, this destiny. Yet, as the narrative unfolds backwards, we start to suspect it's maybe a vicious circle, a self-imposed sentence, almost. It feels like he might be avoiding something even more terrifying, like the possibility that there's actually nothing left to seek, that real justice is unattainable, or meaningless in his condition.
It becomes a kind of parable, doesn't it? But the human need to invent causes, create enemies, impose meaning on what might just be chaos, even if it means distorting reality. He needs a crime to avenge to justify his existence. Whether or not it matches the actual truth becomes secondary. So Memento isn't just about justice being delayed. It's about justice being reimagined, reinvented, and ultimately kind of undermined by the very search for it.
So where does all this leave us? I mean, Memento presents this truly chilling dilemma, I think. If our memories are so malleable, so easily rewritten, are we really anything more than the sum of those constantly shifting recollections?
And if memory really is an act of will, like the film suggests, then how much of what you believe about your own past is objectively real? And how much might be, a carefully crafted fiction, one designed purely to give your life meaning to keep you going?
So for you, our listener, here's maybe a final thought to ponder. If you woke up tomorrow without your memories, what story would you write on your skin? What facts would you construct to define yourself, just to keep going? What really stands out to you from this deep dive into Memento? We'd genuinely love to hear your opinions.